Welcome back to the channel, guys. Before you watch the week podcast, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Make sure you hit that notification bell to be notified on my future content. All my social medias can be found in the description of this video. That's my Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, my GETTR, and my Rumble. Make sure you go over and follow me on GETTR and Rumble, guys. They're free speech platforms and they're all free, and they're just like Twitter and YouTube. If you want to get a hold of me, you can via my Instagram, my GETTR. Just use the links in the description and follow me on any of the desired platforms. All my guests' links can be found in the description of this video also. So if they have a YouTube, an Instagram, etc., you can find these links in the description of the video. Go into the description and just follow them there, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Enjoy the podcast and peace.
Right, I was born in Scotland. My family came from Ireland originally. The Givrans is MCGIVRN, where Scottish is MAC. That's the difference for people who are English, you know that.
Did it take you to get into this world? Because I'm thinking to myself, nobody just gets into the world of taxing people, right? It's hard to, it's a very dangerous world, regardless of if it's the 80s, 90s, or whatnot. It's a very, very dangerous world. So that's attempted murder. They tried to murder you.
Right.
You still didn't want to grass them up. In your mind, is that because you want retaliation, or let bygones be bygones, stick to the code, and this is just the world that I'm in?
A bit of both, because a few of them aren't here no more. Quite a few of them have been killed over the last half a dozen of them were in that house and alive no more. So we'll to sleep with like children own, pick your own things what you want to make of that. Lee was 16. This is how tough he was. Lee Duffy. He went down when he was 16. He ran down to the town from Middlesbrough, a 5-mile run. He went, I want to get a job in the door because he was working as a glass cut. They went, you can't work in the door. You're only 15, 16 or something he was. He went, if I beat the best fighter out of you, lot, can I work in the door? They went, okay then. So the best fighter come up, we went bang and knocked him clean out. He was only 16, so he got the job in the door.
Brian, how's it going, sir? How are you keeping?
I'm doing good, but don't call me sir. You make it sound old.
Yeah. Listen, you've got some rep. I've been watching you for a while now on YouTube. I've seen you. Obviously, I've seen the McIntyre documentary. Your name's well about the place. Yes. Many stories to tell. I think we'll start off. I like to start off with all these podcasts. Tell the audience, where did you grow up? Right. I know there's going to be a lot of people that know you, but for the people that don't know you, where did you grow up? And tell us a wee bit about your childhood.
Right, I was born in Scotland. My family came from Ireland originally. The Givrans is MCGIVRN, where Scottish is MAC. That's the difference for people who are English, you know that. So my family went to on the Clyde to get work up there, and they got work up there. I've just lit my tablet. Got work up there on building ships. My granddad and that was there when they put the bolts in, what they can't remember the called now, where they put the ships together. And he was one of them, and they worked there. So my family are all from Scotland. So I was born in Cockerill in St Alexandra's Hospital. Devon Street was where my family were from. And I stayed there till I was 3. My family moved down from Scotland to England because my uncle Jim was in the army and he got a house in North Ormsby, Middlesbrough. So we went down there and stayed with him for a bit. And then we moved about a few places. And we ended up settling in Hartlepool for about 10 years. I stayed there, went to school there. And I got to know the people down there.
Yeah, so you've got that Scottish in you then too. So you've got that. It makes sense. You've got that because you're a big man back in the day, mate. You were absolutely a gigantic man. I mean, what is that? So you do have Scottish blood in you then?
Well, my mum's Scottish, my dad's Scottish, yeah. My nana's Scottish, my granddad's Scottish, my great granddad is Irish. My great grandma's Irish, so they come from Cork originally. So it's there's no Sassenach in me.
you've got the best.
And that's why your fights are good, I think.
Yeah, I'm saying that you've got the best of both worlds. You've got the sort of the genetics of the Scottish, and then the fighting of the Irish. It was inevitable. So were you a naughty kid, or how long did it take you to get into this world? Because I'm thinking to myself, nobody just gets into the world of taxing people, right? It's hard to, it's a very dangerous world, regardless of if it's the 80s, 90s, or whatnot. It's a very, very dangerous world. So were you a naughty kid, always sort of, sticking up for the weak, or were you never like that at all, and you just sort of fell into it?
When I left Scotland, I went to stay with my family. I was with them, all my uncles. So they were like more like brothers. So I still had that Scottish accent when I went to school when I was like 8-year-old, 5, 6, 7, 8. So from about 8-year-old till about 13, I got bullied bad. I had asthma. I had a dislocated knee when I was born, leg, hip, sorry. And I had bad problems. So when you're weak, kids pick on you, especially with the Scottish accent. So you'd be like you moving to England as a kid, you're going to get bullied off the English kid, or somebody from England moving to Ireland. So it's the same thing. So I got bullied terrible as a kid. I got bullied by about 6 lads, same lads every day. And I used to have to plan how to get to school without them getting me because you couldn't go to the teachers them days. You just get out and play, or you couldn't tell your mum and dad, especially your mum and dad being fighters and your uncles and things like that. They say, get out there and fight them, and I'll give you something to cry for in a minute. So you didn't have no solace for teachers and stuff. So you just had to get on with it. So, but the only good thing then is when you got home, you had peace and quiet. But now the kids are getting bullied. It's 24/7 because they've got mobiles. So as they get home, they get a text and they're getting threats on the mobiles. But as a kid, I never got in trouble. Only once I got in trouble as a kid. Never done anything all the way through my life. All I've got on my record is dangerous driving, and I've run down the stairs to get away from some cops, and I fell into two of them, and I got nicked for resisting arrest. So I've got attempted. I've been done for all sorts of things, but they haven't proved them. So on my record, there's nothing at all, apart from driving offences I got jailed for. I have no insurance and things like that. So there's no assaults or anything, no firearm offences or anything on there. Even though I've been arrested multiple times, but it's the thing is you're innocent till proven guilty, and they haven't proved me guilty. So
that's absolutely mad. If you think about the life that you were in, if you think about your day-to-day life, there was maybe not constant conflict, but there was always something every other day that you had to sort. There was always somebody that was maybe trying to make a name off you, maybe on the street, maybe there was dangerous drug dealers. And the fact that you've only got that on your record is incredible. I mean, I suppose it makes sense, because if you're in that world and you're taxing these lads, they're not going to go to the police.
No.
So that's out of the question. So that's, it's not like you are, going to innocent people's houses and taking their stuff. Actually, if anything, what I've read up on you is that you actually helped the public a lot with certain bad guys in the area that would go to, instead of going to the police, they would go to you because you would get it done faster. And we'll get into that. I'm very interested about that. But your teenage years then, were you bullied in your teenage years, or was that prior to teenage years?
Yeah, that was prior. When I went to the big school, I had a fight with the lad who was the second best fighter in the school, and I grabbed him in like a judo hold. I used to watch loads of David Carradine, Bruce Lee stuff and all that. So I started watching stuff and learning it, and I threw him over my hip and got him down and punched him twice. I thought, this is better than running away. So I started sticking up. Since then, I never lost a fight. I got beat one fight, but I was full of drugs at the time. So then I went back and had the second one and I destroyed him. This lad was fought for the British heavyweight title, had 44 professional fights. So that was the only one I ever come stuck on, but it was because I was full of, I was in a rave for 2 full days eating ecstasy, like it was Smarties, and I was drinking Bacardi and Coke all night. So you're not the real person when you fight. You're not like a footballer going on the field pissed out of his head trying to play football, or somebody being doing mixed martial arts or something, or whatever sport you do, playing darts even. Maybe darts is not so bad, but played whatever.
Tell that to Georgie Best.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like the story when he goes, "Where did it all go wrong, George?" He went, "I've got £20,000. He's won. He's just won the European Cup, the Player of the Year, and he's got Miss World with him." The lad says, "Where did it all go wrong?" At the hotel. That was a funny story on Parkinson. Yeah, but when I was I have dyslexia. I can't spell JCB. So it was a problem. So I went to a special school when I was a kid, and they helped you better in there. But my IQ's through the roof. You put me on any quiz, anything, and I'll beat anyone on that quiz. And you know, I'm every time I go on any quizzes, I did it with McIntyre. We went to a pub quiz. I got 22 questions. So 22, got 20 right. I won the bottles of champagne, but I give it to people in the pub. So my IQ's through the roof. But spelling wise, well, Leonardo da Vinci couldn't spell. Neither could what do you call Albert Einstein and people like that. So the geniuses in another way. So I have got that cleverness. When the cops would arrest me, they said, "Oh, we deal with a different breed of person here. We're not just dealing with the average Joe Block criminal." So I always used to think methodically. I'd watch all the old gangsters films with my mom. In Scotland, you call them ma, which you call your mammy over your way. So that'd be like my nana. So I'd sit and watch the old gangster films. I'd stay there at the weekend and watch like Humphrey Bogart and people like James Cagney and all that, and watch them. And I was wanting to be in that world, thinking if you were a gangster, nobody could bully you. And you know, you fantasize as a kid, you're only a kid. So that I was into them films and watched them. And the main thing in them was they always got killed at the end. But the game when I did the McIntyre documentary, which is from your way, by the way, obviously, he was actually in the Olympics for Ireland in the canoe. He did the canoe. Nice bloke, but he said the strangest thing about Brian Cockerill, he's still alive and he's still taxing after 20 odd years. He said how he's done it. He said I can't believe it. So somebody written a book of me called Steve Richards, but the paper's twisted. It said I was the sixth hardest man on the planet, which I'd never say that because you could never prove who's the best fighter on the planet. It's impossible. What he was trying to get to, he said, in all this time, he's done books on mafia, books on Russian lads, he's done books on Polish lads. He said, there's probably 5 other people and yourself could have done what you've done and got away with it. So you're probably 1 in a million, because there was 6 billion people on the planet then. So he said, you're probably 1 in a million to get away with it. But obviously I've been stabbed, I've been shot, I've been hit with bars, I've been multiple people pulled guns on me. But I'm just lucky somebody up there must like me.
There's a lot that goes into that. I mean, one thing I want to say is that it seems like maybe in your teenage years you're watching these movies, the old style gangsters, the Italians, the Irish, the Colombians, all these different movies, and you're seeing that they're public figures. And is that something in your teenage years when you're looking at, you're thinking, I want to be like that, I want to have that sort of notoriety?
And I was about 10-year-old when I was like that. 10, 11, 12-year-old. It was when I got in my teens. When I was 13, I went to Redcar with my uncle Tam, T-A-M, because in Scotland they call you Tam, not Thomas. So you've been named to be Thomas, but in Scotland you call you Tam. So old Tam took me to the gym for the first time and I trained, and I was 13-year-old, and I got these dumbbells off him. He owed my mum a few quid for a car and he couldn't afford to pay. So he gave me these 2 dumbbells and 160, 70 pound in weight, an old rusty bar. And it was a bench made out of wood with carpet tacked on it, and he'd sawed it up. He made it like that for the bar to go across. And he had that, and I was in my dry, and I thought, the more you train, the bigger you get. And obviously, I was training 6, 7, 8 times a day, not realising you don't train that much. But I was obsessed with it, and I just wanted to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, because I seen him in 70, 78, 79, I think 78, when he did Pop and I in 77. I seen that for the first time, and I got it videoed, because we got it. The video machines were a fortune in them days. They were £500 for the VHS video machine. So my mum had a Betamax one. We used to pay so much every week for it. I think you paid £10 a week to rent it, to buy. We used to go to bins and I used to pay it for it. I used to go shopping. I used to go shopping for all the kids in the house. I used to look after them. A lot of drinking in the house. My mum drank a lot. My dad gambled a lot. There was a lot of violence and that in the house. So I would look after the kids where they'd be out, and I'd be looking after kids where other people would be at school and things like that. So a lot of a lot of Irish people like that as well.
I was just going to say that. I mean, that's a big responsibility for yourself. You know, violence in the house, alcohol. I do believe alcohol is the biggest destructive drug ever made, in my opinion. I know that there's other. You have crack, you've got heroin, but you know, I don't know what's the correct way of saying it. Per capita, I would say would alcohol destroy more lives? It's definitely destroyed Ireland, and I know it's done that the same with England, with families and stuff, like men getting drunk and coming home and being violent. It's just it's terrible for the kids. Do you think going through that give you the sense of being a protector then?
I think so, yeah, because I was one of the people that I'd see a dog being hurt or something. I always was like, oh, poor dog, or Jesus being crucified, and I've got Samson and Delilah and all films. I used to love all them films. So I was always on the side, right? I was always on the side of justice, mate. I was always like, not go to the police and justice. I want about justice sake between human beings. And I remember once a lad was kicking a dog really bad in Grove Hill, and I've gone over and I've knocked him clean out. This is ironic, and this is calm. I've knocked him over somebody's fence. He's landed in the garden. The dog from that garden's running bitten. so he's assaulted the dog from outside. I've hit him, knocked him over the fence. The dog's come out and bit him from the other side. This other dog, nothing to do with him. And I've got this dog, took it off him, and I took to the vets, cleaned it all up. And I ended up giving the dog to someone for nothing. It cost me, I think, £170 to get it all cleaned up and that. But I can't see kids being beaten up. I'm one of them people. If there's 20 people on the one, I'd be out of the car straight away and be over and making the odds even. I can't stand bullying. I just can't in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, karma is a real thing, and it's a good job that the finishing touch on that guy was the dog biting him. Fair play. That's all I can say. But your teenage years, so you said you had your first straightener at 13.
Yeah,
13 years.
Straightener was I left 10 or 11. There was a lad who lived across the road called Tommy, and his brother Robert. And my brother's called Robert. Anyway, he was a bully this lad. He was about 6'1", 6'2", big lanky gangly thing. But I was a 10-year-old, 11-year-old. He bullied me. He was about 15, 16. So one day I decided to fight back. So I bit him and he went down. But just went to stamp on his head. His man went, behave. In them days, you did. Grown-ups told you off in them days. You do as you're told. It's like the police have to come along. You'd run from the police. You were frightened of them. But you get a boot up the arse or slapped on the lug. Yeah. Or these one islands the same. Your parents. If you brought the police to your house, you bring shame to your house. So bring in the fucking police to my door. All the neighbours can see everyone, blah, blah, and they go mad with your parents. So you didn't dare get in trouble, because if you brought the police, you were in serious trouble. But yeah. So I had this fight. So I had a fight with this lad. I'll say it was on the Friday. So my mum said, right, get out there and fight him tomorrow, yo. And she gave me 50 pence. And this is the first time the tax man got paid for a fight. So I went to have a fight with this lad around near the toilets. My other friend Vulture from Hartlepool's a great lad. He was there. And I ended up fighting with him anyway. The lad beat me up, but I made a few marks on his face. I scratched him and I busted his nose. And after that, he was best friends. And it's a true saying. If you fight back with a bully, if you just keep letting them hitting you and hitting you and hitting you, they'll keep hitting you. Because that's what a bully is. Known for the fact that they're going to get no comebacks off you. But as soon as you push something back into their face or you put a mark on them, then you never ever touch me again after that. So it does work.
And it can actually, a lot of people, they're saying today, a lot of bullies and stuff. I'm thinking back to whenever I was in school. I went to one of the worst schools in the north here. It was crazy. But thinking back to the kids that were bullies, and I speak to them now, they're actually not the worst lads. They just had a very, very bad home life, and they didn't know that certain things were wrong. Maybe they were getting beat. And what happens is, whenever you have a fight with a bully, and you maybe put a mark on his face, or you get the better of him, what happens is you can actually become friends, and that changes the bully, because now he's got friendship, something that maybe that he's not used to, or she's not used to. And it's a just looking into a few things now, definitely the home life of a lot of children, especially back then, and especially in whenever I was a kid, it wasn't good. A lot of these kids were dealing with a lot of stuff that at least people today can actually speak up and talk about this. So when then was your first sort of taxing job? How did you get into that?
Well, I went to Redcar with my uncle Tam, TEM, and I started living at his flat. So I got a little flat off someone, and he lived with his girlfriend, but he was clear. It was a flat. He was on the door, and he got a flat. I used to pay him a £10 a week for the flat because he wasn't staying there anyway. So I used to give him like 40 quid a month. So I got my flat. Then I worked on the door. I got a job working on the door as a doorman. I was 20-year-old. I went down and asked for a job. They gave me the job the first night, and then I went to the gym. I was training the gym for about a year, and then I got big. I was about 13 something when I went there for some stone. I got to 15.5. I got first 14.7. I think I was 14.8, some of that, in weight. And I got a job on the door, so I started piling the weight on. Then I was doing it, training properly, because I was in a proper gym, not in the house. And I was training with proper people. A good lad called Peter Ayton, who was like Franco Colombo. And then there was Terry Cooper, who was like Arnold. So for me, it was perfect. And these were the best bodybuilders in the head that competed and everything. So I thought, I've landed on my feet here and I'd listen to them. I'd go to the gym. Then I got a job in the gym working. So I got 25 quid a week. And I got to save, it was £5 a week for membership. So it was 30 quid. And then I used to get 40 quid a week on the door. Then it went up to 50 quid. That was 80 quid. And then I used to work in a video shop, renting videos out. I'd get £1 an hour. So I'd work painting people's fences, digging gardens, cutting grass, just to put money on the table so I could use it for training. But I was lucky; it was a man and woman owned a farm, and I used to eat 30 eggs a day because the protein then powder you couldn't afford it was too dear. So I'd have like 10 scrambled eggs for breakfast with 2 slices of toast, and there's 7 or 8 grams of protein each egg. So that's real food. You get people now drinking them protein drinks, but it's not real. Half of it's maltodextrose, it's full of sugar. You're better off having the eggs unless you've got the high cholesterol. But if you're a young lad, you're better off having pints of milk and eggs and things like that because you'll pile the weight on a lot better. But when you in them days, we couldn't afford powder and it was just too dear. So I used to get 210 eggs a week and have 30 a day every day. And I'd train in the gym and I'd finish up the gym training. I worked in the race course as well. I got a job parking cars from 8 in the morning until when the races come. Then I got another job where I had to go run across the race course, climb these ladders, climb another set of ladders, about 30 feet, another 30 feet. And on the top, the man would have a camera with the photo finish. I'd get that and have to take it over to him and they'd check the photo finishes. So I got like about £15 a day working the race course when it was on. So it was all money for training. And then I started working Leo's, like I said, on the door. And then I went to I did loads of fights when I was a kid, one-to-one fights and beat everyone in Hartlepool. When I was 15, we moved to from a place called Greythorpe to Seat Lane, which was all travellers, nearly like Irish gypsies and travellers, full of them. I mean, it was that bad. They used to have the horses in the house. I said, Mum, I've just seen a horse looking out that window. She went, stop speaking silly bugger, you. Get away from the bus window. I said, I've just seen a horse looking out the window. She only looked and there's a horse looking out the window because it was freezing in the winter. And the travellers used to have them in the house. It was called Little India, the place down Seat Lane, just near the bottom of Seat Crew, where the train station was. So anyway, there was a lad there called John Redmond. You won't mind me mentioning, he was about 3 or 4 years older. I mean, he was into the Crombie stuff and that. You remember the Crombies and Madness stuff? He was into all that. And I think I was 14, 15.
Was that like a punk era? Was it punk rock?
Just after the punk, it was like Madness and
yeah,
specials and all them. So
yeah.
Crombie jacket on, and I've got a mouth organ. And I'm playing this mouth organ walking the street. I remember going to buy these sweets that were called mints, some type of spearmint mints or something they were called. And I used to got a tin of Coke. So I'm coming up and I seen him. I thought, I just walked on inside the road. I thought, I don't want any trouble. I can't be bothered with it. So I'm coming up. And anyway, he goes, that better be a big enough night because it was shiny, obviously, with a mouth organ. So I put it in my back pocket. It was a couple of days after Christmas. I was talking about it's a mouth organ. I said, he said, well, me and you one-to-one, he said. Anyway, I just went, boom, nutted him in the face. And as he went down, I grabbed his Crombie coat and pulled it around his arm so he couldn't fight. And I grabbed him by the hair and just kneed him in the face and he was over. And he was the best. He was out, I think he was 19, something like that, and I was 15. So I became the best fighter in that whole area then. So everyone was like scared of him. And then I fought with a lad called David Jenkins. And I beat him as well. He was the next street, so I was the king in that area where I lived that way. But when I went to Redcar, I got a job on the door, but I didn't know how to put people out, grab them in holes and stuff. So I worked with a lad called Frank Yaffin. He was about 12 stone from Wigan. And he talked like, all right, love. And he talked like he was gay, nothing against anyone like that. But he wasn't. It's literally the way they talk from Wigan and from St. Helens. All right, love. And he was a bit... Anyway, he taught me how to punch and throw a punch. He was a bit like Mickey. I was like Stallone say. And he taught me how to box and showed me how to move your feet and place them and bob and weave and all that stuff. He used to have me... I couldn't shadow box before. So he got a line, clothesline. John Black was another one who trained Lee Duffy. You got the clothesline when you put your clothes on. If you can't shadow box, right, get a shoelace, tie it on the line. Then you put something to aim at. So you're hitting the lace is hanging down off the line on so you're punching that. So it gives you something to aim at because I couldn't punch at nothing. So I had to have something in front of me and he taught me that. All these little tricks, old-fashioned tricks. So I started went to the door anyway. I worked with Jeff Robinson, he was another one. So we were in the club, we were having to put people out. I used to carry them downstairs and put them out and stuff. And it was just natural to me. It was just one of them things. So I was really good at speaking to people as well. I was always polite. And when we had fights in them days, Rowan, it was like you and me on the beach, because it used to be the beach was there. We'd fight on the beach, there'd be 20, 30 people watching and just knock him out. He'd wake up, I've had enough. I was okay, mate, shake hands, I'll get your pint, and it was finished with. But now, I'll come round your house and smash your windows. I'm bringing 20 travellers with me. Bring yourself. When I go to fight people, when I went to fight the legendary fight, I won't mention his name, from Newcastle, I went on my own, got dropped off. And had about 40, 50 dollars with him. Went on my own to fight him. I didn't need anyone. I knew in my own heart I could win the fights. And I got that good in the end of it. I was like getting to the top of the tree where I lived. Everyone in Teesside I'd beat. who I'd fought, but most of the other top fighters were my friends from Hartlepool, like Richie Horsley's and Vic Sorby's and Kevin Rich and Terry Rich and all these type of people, and other top lads from like Middlesbrough were my friends. But I always get on with people.
So what? So then that was your. Was that then? That was your. Was that before your introduction into sort of taxing? Then what was
Yes.
your? Can you remember your first time you've ever done it? Like you've.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to put it this way. Like just say it's me, right? I'm a dealer of some kind. I'm in your area, right? I've got 3 or 4 boys in the house. I'm selling. I'm making big money. And you know where I live. What do you do? What's your first steps?
Right, if you were a good, decent person, you went to grass, you went to the police, and you were just making a few quid and you were doing it yourself, I wouldn't be bothered. But if it was interrupting with my business, what I did, obviously I'd have to come and have a word with you. But if you try, what most people that tax were people going, if he comes to my house, I'm going to shoot him. And as soon as I hear that, I'd just go around and I'd grab them out, take the gear off them, take the cars off them, whatever. But when they were decent people, I took gear off people, I'd give them it back when I found out they're nice people. So I didn't tax people who were, I only taxed wrong ones, ones who work with the police and ones who were selling heroin. I fucking hate the stuff, can't stand it. So if I got it, I'd just tip it down the drain in the street in front of them. 20 grand there, I said, don't give a fuck. 20 grand less on the streets of kids starving and people like dying on heroin because it's horrible stuff. My brother was on it for years and I hate the stuff. I could have made millions of pounds selling it, but I stopped it when I was on the streets. But when I went to jail to come out, it was like an epidemic. I got like 30 odd months in jail when I come out. They were all doing it.
That's what I'm. So if I'm just maybe selling a bit of grass, I'm selling a few pills, the party drugs, that's fine. But the real hard ones for you is like the heroin. Now it goes without saying, the heroin business is a very dirty business, and it's ran by very dirty people, like
evil people.
Evil people, right? So if you're pouring that down the drain, obviously, is this not getting back to the sort of the suppliers or the even the makers that it's getting back? There's this guy Brian Cockerill, he doesn't like us selling us in this area. Have you ever had conversations with these people? Have you ever visited these people? Did you ever have to fight these people? What was or did you fear these people even? What was when you were doing that, and what was your sort of mind frame around it? And did you ever have any interaction with the sort of the hierarchies of the heroin game?
Well, not really, because they knew they couldn't get away with it with me because I'd fought all the top fighters. So it's all right having money, but you've got to know people. So I had money and I knew people. I knew a lot of lads from over the water. You always know, good friends of mine. I was in with both sides of both sides. I knew them. Good friends who lived in England, and from that background, people from Scotland, people from London, had connections all over Bradford, all over the country. So I had a massive army behind me. It wasn't just myself. I had proper people with me who would go to the extremes if we had to. So these people knew this and had attempts on me. I went to one house to tax one who was bragging he had 20 grand and he wouldn't be able to take off. He'd shoot me. I've gone to his door, but I'm down the path. So it's a long gate. There's a gate with a long path. It's a council estate, and there's a gate. There's a little baby gate there. Anyway, I seen two. When I got to the doorway, I seen 2 kids. I went, you can't go in the house when there's kids. You can't go in the house when there's women. So I've walked away and he went, here, Cockerill, you don't fucking shoot you. So he pulled this gun on me. So I ran at him and he shot me. But when he shot me, it's a plastic BB gun, them plastic bullets. Zipped me with one of them. I thought, but it hit me. I thought he's fucking on my head. I thought he shot me, but it wasn't even a real gun. So you get loads of people talking shit. But sometimes, there's a few incidents where people try to shoot me. I've been lucky to get away with it, but they knew the consequences would die with me.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, so if somebody, even though it's a BB gun, take it away. I'm just thinking about the psychology of this. If somebody pulls a gun on me, just as the bog standard average person, I'm backing off. I'm ducking because it's just a natural reaction. He pulls a gun on you, and you don't know it's a BB gun. You only find out after when it bounces off you. But you charge at him. Have you got that thing inside you? It's either fight or flight. It's always fight with you.
Always fight, never back off. I mean, it's like the Scottish when they were fighting the English, they charge at cannons. I'm one of them. My mate Bram, who was a top cage fighter, said, whatever era you were in, you'd have been the best in the Roman days, you'd have been the best in the Gladiator days, you'd have been the best in Ireland or Scotland. In your era, whatever, you were born to fight. And that's just in you. It doesn't bother me. I mean, we were on one door, it was called Henry Africa's, and we'd had a lot of fight with these lads. Anyway, this night they turned up, about 30 handed of them, and they were all stood with sticks and everything. and it was my birthday. It was 16th of December. I was 26-year-old. So we were in the semi-Africans. We used to go in the front way, put the cars in the back way, and then walk in. But when we'd come out the front way and go around the back to get the cars because it was blocked through the gates. So we've gone around there, and they've got hidden in these two alleys. They've come out throwing stones at us and bricks with all big sticks in their hands and iron bars. And the lads, I think it was 7, 8 of us on behind the gates. They started pulling the gate shut. I went, fuck this. What we're going to do? I said, tell you what we're going to do. Charge! I started like charging the light brigade at them. So I ran up with it one. He hit the floor and the ball just scattered. But if I didn't do it, I think we'd probably got beat because they attacked us. Because I've reversed it, they was like, he's fucking loopy. Him, look, he's running at us. So I just was like the English, like the Scots with the English and Barrack Burn and places like that. I thought, you're going to get beat, you're going to get beat. And all they can do is kill me. And if I'm dead, I'm dead. You don't worry about it. So I always had that philosophy in my head. If I get killed, I get killed. So you're only going to die. What else can you? You can't do any worse. If you die, you die. That's it. But I never used to think, oh, I might get beat. I just always in my head. I used to always think I can beat these. I don't care how many years. I'm not going to back off from anyone.
Yeah, it's a different type of a mind frame, isn't it? It's like if you're in that world, you're sort of all in or you're all out. And if you're all out, there's no point even putting one foot through that door because you're just going to get hurt. It seems like you made the decision. This is what you're going to do, and you tried to become the best at it. And essentially, you did sort of become the sort of one of the most public known sort of taxmen of that era.
Yeah.
What's the worst house? Because I'm thinking to myself, you're seeing these characters. Obviously, there's people, you're not taxing people selling weed and ecstasy and stuff, but what's the worst house that you ever walked into? Can you remember?
The worst one was in Ormsby Bank, where I took 250 grand off one firm in 2 weeks, and I took 100 grand off another firm. So they decided to pay to get me killed. So they've decided to team up. People from Hartlepool, people from Sunderland, people from Newcastle. I think it's people from Manchester who's involved. There was 14 of them. Now, I know this because the people who've actually did it to me have actually come forward and apologised. The Christians now saying, I forgive them. But they got me to a friend. They're not clever, so they come down in their own Jeep. I mean, fucking hell. When I allegedly did jobs, say I was going to shoot someone or whatever I was going to do, I'd have a car stolen. I'd have the registration of the car in that area doubled up with another car, so it looks like if the police come by and see it just comes back somebody else's car registered. They've come down in their own car. They've gone into a man's house, kidnapped him, and held him at gunpoint, and his son, 13-year-old, and his son's friend, 12-year-old, and a bloke, 60-odd-year-old, they've got guns to their heads. They've got him. What would you do? You wouldn't say, there's my phone Brian Cockerill. You'd phone off the man's phone or the house phone. So he's got him to phone, supposed to be this big-time gangster from Newcastle. He's got the man to phone off his own phone to me. So then he's registered to me. He's registered that area. He's registered that house because the police station's only about a quarter of a mile away with the main drug squad police station with all the masks where they can pick up where you're at. And so what happened, the neighbours, the road, there's been a survey on that road, there's 3,000 cars an hour go by in that road, tea-time traffic. So an off-duty policeman down, to be honest, because it's around the corner of the police station. So the police have phoned through. I've still got guns, I've got this, blah, blah, blah. The neighbours have seen, took the registrations of the cars, of the 3 Jeeps there was in a motorbike. One was following me on a bike. Now, I thought it was the police, so I just let him follow me. So I've got nothing to hide. It's only a daft cop on like a moped thing. So I knew he was following me, but I didn't know it was a gangster. And he was known for shooting people. This lad. He was a main good gunman in Newcastle. So I've got to this house, knocked on the door, and this lad's come to the door with a bad eye. I said, "Oh, Brian." And yeah, he said, "Oh, you mate." I thought he's been filled in. The lad who else it was, Tommy. I can say his name, Tommy, because it was on all the papers and it was mentioned on the radio and things. So I've gone in the passageway, and as I've gone to shut the door, he's hit me on the head with a mash hammer. And I didn't know it was a mash hammer until Tommy told me the story. He said, when Tommy's like that at the other end, like we've got a passageway when you got a knock on the door, and on the right hand side there was a door, which you went into the front room. Then you can go down the passageway into the kitchen, and then you can go up the stairs on the left. So they're all hiding in these ways, like waiting for me with knives. There's 14 of them with knives, machetes, handguns, shotgun, baseball bats. The worst one was, I imagine it was like a sock, but it was made of chamois leather. I think it was filled with their marbles, really hard, like iron marbles. when he hit me in the face with that on the floor, it wrapped around my eye. My eye needle, I thought I was going to lose my eye, couldn't see properly. But anyway, just before that, he hit me on the head of the hand. My legs buckled, but I grabbed him in the houses. I think you'll get to an island, the old 1950s doors with the big pane of glass in. I've ran him right through the door, and then there's no lad in the kitchen, the one who the boxer lad, I broke his jaw before this. This is why they've got me. I've had a straight. The first fight with this boxer, got the bet because I was full of drugs. And the second fight, 3 punches I threw and I broke his jaw in 6 places. I bit his ear off, broke his ribs, and made a mess of him. So because he couldn't fight me, he got the gang. That's the reason. So
sorry to interrupt you. Is this the gang from Newcastle still?
Yeah. So they're involved. They're all together thinking we're going to have to stop this fucker. He's destroying our
business. And they've lured you to this house, haven't they? Just so I'm up to date with the story, they've lured you to this house. There's a gang of people in here, and they're battering. They're trying to actively kill you with weapons.
Yeah. So what happened is I've hit a few on the floor, and I've grabbed. I think a lad called Cookie. He's been arrested. He tells the version of it. If anyone wants to watch it, he tells the version what happened with the tax man. And they've stabbed me. I've got scars all over me. My leg, big right on my leg. I've got a macheted. I've been stabbed in the back. I've been stabbed in the stomach. I've been stabbed in the side. I've been hit on the head. I've got 6 holes in my head. I've got hammer holes in my head. 176 stitches, over 2 pints of blood, and still fighting them. But I was fighting them anyway. I went down in the end, and they hit me on the leg. So I just turned on my side. I think I'll only get one leg bashed. So I got my left leg bashed. And they said, that's the end of him. Anyway, this kid who was there, he's contacted me about 3-4 months ago and said, he's a man now. He said, I still have PDST, what you call it, what the army lads have. He still suffers from that because he was only 13-year-old. He said, they were stabbing you and hitting you with bars and you just wouldn't stop. He said, you just kept coming at them. He said, then they put you down and that's the end of him. And then you just risen off the floor like a Terminator, he said, and you got up and went, come on. And you ran at them and they all ran out the house. They were not frightened. They ran out of the house, so they ran off. But when they've run off and jumped in the jeeps and stuff, the police have already got the registrations off the neighbours. So they've got, they call it APB, I think in America, I don't know what it's called here. So they put out that warning. They know his name, because they've got his registration, his own Jeep. They know where he lives. So they've got the cars on. There used to be 3-litre Senators in them days. So they've got the 3-litre Senators waiting. They've nicked him, caught him on the motorway. Gets caught with weapons, gets caught with all sorts of stuff. The blood's all over his clothes. The DNA, everything. So I've got it off the floor and I'm outside. I'm hobbling on one leg trying to fucking fight them, but they've gone. But in my head, I'm still, I need to get to them, but I won't give in. So I'm hanging on the wall, and anyway, the neighbour next door, Colin Tucker, comes out. That was a mess. He's in the video. You hear him talking in the documentary with McIntyre. I didn't think Brian was going to make it. He lost that much blood, but he still was trying to get to them. He said we had to get him in the car, but I was 24 stone then. It was huge. So they put me in a blanket, put me in the car, took me to the hospital, and just said, we found them on the road and went. But I never mentioned their names. And they never mentioned the people's names. So nobody grassed no one up. So when I'm in hospital, the cops come and said to me, this oldish cop, he was about 70-year-old, I'd say, old school, like a Columbo type cop off the films. Very, very intelligent. The way he talked, you could see. He said, you've made the big time now, son. So it was in the paper, that was on the radio station, it was on the local television station. Taxman's left for dead by a gang of youths, left him, stabbed him, and blah, 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 put all this story in. And the cop said, well, you'll get a fortune off this, we can give you £100,000 and we can, out of all the places said Essex, they said, we'll move you somewhere like Essex, get you a house, you get a £400 a week job. We want these off the streets, it's the animals. He said, the ones who've attacked you haven't just come down here to give you a good item with all them people and all them weapons. They've come down here to kill you. They want you dead and buried because you're interfering with their business. They try to wipe you out. He said, you've absolutely wrecked the house the way you're fighting with them. You smashed the windows, the doors are smashed, the telly's smashed, you've wrecked the whole house. He said, they've shit themselves, he said, the copper, because you were fighting back with ferocity. And a couple of them said, when they were telling people in jail, said he was fighting like a lion and we were like hyenas. He was just throwing us off. Like the strength of him was unbelievable. But I think that strength's from God to help you. And he was there again for us, Lord Jesus Christ. So anyway, I'm in the hospital and they're going, and what they've done, they're clever what they've done, but I'm very quick upstairs. So they've got 2 cops to stay with me, but I'm underarmed. I thought I was underarm protection, but they've underarm arrested me. The boxer, cheeky bastards, only made a 10-page statement against me and got me locked up after trying to kill me. and gets me locked up, and I never said a word about them. I'm in the hospital, laid there 10 days, had 2 operations, and I'm in the hospital, and the cops are going, they've sent 2 bodybuilding cops in, trying to psychology. Oh, can you just give us a clue where they're at? And I went, they could be over there, could be over there, they could be over there, they could be over there. Just point in the right direction. I was doing that there, like this, to take the piss. They'll go, well, I'll tell you what we can do, we'll do a good deal for you. I said, I don't deal deals with you. If I had a minute, 30 seconds to live, I'm still not going to tell you where somebody is who's attacking me. That's my fault. I've taxed the money. It's just a part of the game you're in. You can't go to the police when you've robbed somebody. It's a fucking game you're in. I said, you should have, well, you're brave enough, aren't you? I said, yeah, well, you fucking aren't. I said, well, he said, well, what we can do here, all you need to do now is, you don't have to make a statement. We've worked it out. All we need to get is your DNA on their clothes. The clothes are full of your blood, but we need a sample of your writing to give us permission to get the DNA, and they're going to jail for 33 years plus. He said, I'll guarantee these get 33 years, the main ones. The others are getting 20 years apiece. So I went, fuck off. He said, no one will know. What do you mean? I said, I'll know, and you'll know, and that's enough for me. I said, I couldn't live with myself. I said, I'd rather die than do that. He told me, you just don't give a fuck. He said, these are going to come back for you again. I went, well, if they come back, I'm going to be ready this next time, man. So once bitten, twice shy. Don't you think I'm going to go looking for them? They would have to come looking for me. So anyway, these people said he's finished now. We'll never see him again. He's dead and buried. He's finished. He's going to probably buy a guest house in Blackpool and live in a caravan and grow daisies or daffodils or whatever he said. I said, never see him again. 10 days later, I was out again. 2 days after getting out, tacked £1,000 with the ecstasy and £1,000 in cash. Went to Stokesley, went to the Blues, Black Lads Rave Club, and taxed them in there and bashed 2 black lads in there. And I was on crutches, full of stitches and holes and everything. And it's just in your DNA. It's like the frog and the scorpion. He says, can you give me a lift across the pond to the frog? The scorpion, and the frog says, no, because you'll bite me. He says, don't be daft. If I bite you, we're both going to drown. He says, oh, yeah, you're okay. So he gets on his back and halfway across, right enough, the scorpion bites the frog. He says, what do you do that for? Both of us are going to die now. He says, just can't help it. It's in my DNA. I think that's in our the McGivern family are all fighters. They just don't give in. They just don't know when to say, we've had enough. And I think that's what it's. I think with that philosophy, that's kept me alive all these years.
That's a very fascinating situation, and you can talk about the extent of your injuries, but the fact, what I'm taking from that is the fact that you were in that world, and even though that you were near put on death's door, you near died. That's attempted murder. They tried to murder you.
Right.
You still didn't want to grass them up. In your mind, is that because you want retaliation, or let bygones be bygones, stick to the code, and this is just the world that I'm in?
A bit of both, because a few of them aren't here no more. Quite a few of them have been killed over the last half a dozen of them were in that house, aren't alive no more. So we'll just leave let you choose your own, pick your own things, what you want to make of that. But they're not here no more. But the thing is, this is the kicker for you, and you'll never believe this. If I told you this, and it's true because it's been the papers, everyone will tell you. They got caught, so they're caught with blood on them. The phone calls linked to their cars linked to their address. The neighbours have got the registration of the vehicle. They've been picked out. So one of them, the main one's been caught. So he's been remanded to jail. So what do? Instead of me just sitting back and think, fuck you, you're going to jail for trying to kill me, I got a visit to meet him, went to the jail, sat in the visit, and I made sure I said, put your hand on your mouth. Said, this is how thick he is. I put your hand on your mouth because the cameras can literally. He said, well, you're paranoid. I said, I'm not fucking paranoid. I said, I'm feeling under the table, see if there's any bugs and stuff. So I get a visit, and he went, well, he said, blah, 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 we've realised what's happened with the boxing now, blah, blah, all this shit. He's made a statement, grassed you up, we're going to sort that. I said, what about that? I know that'll get sorted. I said, the blood on your clothes, what's on your clothes is my blood. He said, that's where I'm knackered. I'm good looking at it. I'm looking 20 plus. I said, no, they told me you're looking 33 years. That's what you're going to get. Because you've gone there. You haven't gone there to beat me up. You've gone there to conspiracy to murder. They're going to charge you with. So it's worse when it's a conspiracy. If you went near the fight, so when you killed them accidentally, you probably look at 20 years. But if you conspired, he must have conspired to get all them people together in vehicles and come down with all them weapons. So they've caught him anyway. And he's in there looking at 20 years plus, he said, but it was 33. I said, well, that's easy, the blood. Can you remember? Never met this man, so this is me talking. Do you remember when I was at your house 2 weeks ago? He went, I was at your house 2 weeks in case there were buggers. I said, at your house 2 weeks ago. and you were having the span sitting out the back, and I caught you with a jab and you bust my nose. Well, there's my blood on your clothes. There's that solved. Well, you'd say that for me, he said. I went, of course I would. I'd say it for anyone. I said, I don't want you to go to jail. It's not my thing. And so I did that, and then I made a statement saying, he's my friend. I've known him for years. I said, the police are after this man. They even want to give him 33-year jail. I've gone to court. I'd give evidence for him to get him off. So I got the perpetrators who tried to kill me off. No one's ever heard a story like that before.
That's absolutely crazy. So they've tried to murder you, but you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to grass these guys up. I don't want them to go to jail. It's not even grassing them up. You're actually going out of your way to make sure these guys don't go to jail. So,
Right.
like for instance, if the blood was found on him, and that's sort of evidence, and that's sort of, because it's attempted murder, it's not robbery or anything. It's that's out of your hand. 33 years. If you had just took a step back from that, them guys had got 33 years. That's not even grassing. So the fact that you've been in that situation and you've wanted to help them, I mean, did you do that? I just have to ask you the question to sort of go, right, well, hold on, if I do this, I can benefit from this because I'm going to earn the respect of these guys, and they're not going to try to come back to murder me.
Just the respect of anyone. I mean, I used to see Cagney be dying on the steps in a film, and who did it? And the cop was going, who did it? The cop was saying, he goes, fuck off, type of thing, in our language, fuck off, and in the old way. So it's not beneficial to them. So all I wanted, I said to him, I want to fight the boxer again. I'll have another straightener, a third one this time. And you arranged a fight, but he didn't want to fight me, the boxer. He ended up phoning up saying he want to fight me. So that was put to bed that then. But as a fighting wise, I've never given a shit. So I'm not scared of somebody with guns and bars and stuff and attack me with weapons and stab me, and people pulling shotguns on me. I got shot with a lad. It's still shoot this one. He pulled a shotgun on me. And he's run across the road and shot me from across the road. By the time the pellets come over, and he got shot with 3 little pellets in my legs. If he shot me close up, he'd have made a mess of me. But he's run across the road. I'm going to shoot you. Shot off his head and drove. So he has shot me, but it's just have 3 little pellets in my leg. But I've been lucky a few times. I had another one once. My mate Ranjit, my other little friend, Raggy, a really good kid. It's his uncle. We were out, Pommy and that. He's not here no more. He's passed away. But all the Asian lads were out. I mean, we were in the Blues. It was a black lads club. You used to go and they'd have curry in there. You could drink. It could be open all night because it was the music, the reggae music and stuff. So I'm in there, and that's come out this lad from Grove Hill. I know him, he's friends with me now. He's like, I'm gonna fucking shoot you, shouting to my friend, to Randy, I'm gonna fucking shoot you. So I've jumped in and got the shotgun right on my stomach. Shoot me then. Shoot me. He's going, I'm telling you, Brian, I'll shoot you. And I'm screaming and shouting. I went, listen, see all these cameras around here, and see all these 50, 60, 70 witnesses. You're going to shoot me now, I'm going to die. It's obviously going to kill me, aren't you? So I'll be dead. But you're going to do, can you do 25 years in an 8x12 cell? And he just looked at me, looked at all the people, just ran. But look, 7 years later, he come in the pub, he went, the Broadway pub in Grove Hill, I was from the door, and then he come in, he said, you remember me, I was going to put the shotgun on you. I said, I can't remember it, I remember the incident. And he ended up shaking hands with us, but they have respect for you people when you do things like that.
There must be a higher power, because I'm thinking to myself, the amount of situations that you've been in, and you've came out of it the other end, obviously the exception of the one where the attempted murder on your life, but you've been through a few situations where something's had to intervene where they've saved you, because somebody pointing a gun at my belly, I would brick myself. I'm just a normal human being. I'm just a civilian. It seems like, is everybody like that around your area? There's 2 questions I want to ask you that you can answer for me. Is everybody like that around your area, that they've got that toughness and they've got that hardness? And who was the hardest man you've ever fought?
The fight with the boxer was hard, but I wouldn't put that down to the hardest fight because I'd had 20 fucking ecstasy in 2 or 3 days off bed, no sleep for 2 or 3 days, and full of alcohol. So that wasn't really me. Yeah, there's loads of people loads of tough lads, but the tough one, I had the hardest punch is Lee, but he hit me on the side. He hit me with the right hand and caught me, and he put me out.
Who we're talking about now? What's this guy's name?
This is Lee Duffy. This is the one I ended up being friends with. He was the toughest person in the area. When we were younger, because when I was 16, I was really skinny. But Lee was 16. This is how tough he was, Lee Duffy. He went down when he was 16. He ran down to the town from Middlesbrough, a 5-mile run. You know, I want to get a job in the door because he was working as a glass cut. They went, you can't work on the door. You're only 15, 16 or something he was. He went, if I beat the best fighter out of you, lot, can I work on the door? They went, okay then. So the best fighter come up, we went bang and knocked him clean out. He was only 16, so he got the job on the door. and he was the top fighter, for years. But when he went to jail for 4 years, I started coming through the route, up the top. I beat every fight that had ever come up against. And anyway, he was in the street, went, oh, I turned around, and he caught me with this punch, put me half down, 3/4. I pushed myself up and I grabbed him. But him being 15 stone, me being 24, he said to his missus, Carol Edwards, who'll probably watch this later on, he said, I've just had the worst nightmare in my wife's life. He said, I've got a fight with a man like Giant Haystacks, the wrestler. He said, I beat him with everything I had, thought I'd beat him, and he's just come at me like a mad bull. He's thrown me around, ragging us around like a rag doll, headbutting me, elbowing me. He said, I've just had the hardest fight in my life. And Stephen Sayers says this, who's the Sayers family, Newcastle. I've just done a movie with them. I'm in that movie with them, but they were good friends of his. And he said, Stephen Sayers says, for Lee Duffy to say that, this kid must be exceptional, like talking about me. So anyway, I was having another fight with him. I was going to have another second fight, and he went to jail. A lad attacked him. He got shot once in the blues in the street off a lad. And then this is the same thing as him. He got shot and he ran at them and he got shot. But what he done is he split his legs and jumped in the air like that. So when they shot his legs, the bullets hit the pavement and most of them missed him. So he only got a few in his knee. And then he got shot in the blues. These black lads come through from, I think it was Sheffield, way to kill him. And they tried to shoot him. He's grabbed the gun. The guns went off and blew half his foot off. So he shot twice. Then he's in a commercial pub, rough pub. And this kid went, he said to Lee, can you lend a couple of quid? And Lee gave him about £2 or £3. He said, there's some money. So the lad's gone. He was a window cleaner. He's gone to the petrol station, filled the thing up with petrol, the bucket. Hey, Duffy, and threw about a gallon of petrol on Lee and tried to light the matches to throw them on him and set him alight. So Lee's hit him and bashed and broke his jaw, took his clothes off, ran back in and battered him. So Lee Duffy gets arrested and remanded for it. And the lad who tried to kill him, that's how much they hated me, Lee. So what happened when he was on remand, I started taxing everyone all over the place, taxing all the people. And then he had found out about it. And then I tried to have a second fight when I went to Weston, run up to a car. Got a lad called Peter O to come and see me, and we ended up shaking hands. So he phoned me and said, look, it's crazy. We're the best two fighters in the area, maybe the best two fighters in the country at the minute. Why don't we team up? He said, united we stand, divided we fall. So we teamed up, and when we became the biggest force, there'll never be another two like us. Both the same, didn't give a fuck about anyone, fight anyone anywhere, went about guns or knives or anything. Both were attacked, shot, both been shot, and he got stabbed to death later on in a street fight that went wrong. So it's that game that you're in, but he never attacked nowhere near as many people as me, Lee, and he never done as many bad things as me, because he only was a short, he died at 26 years old, he was stabbed to death. He was 26. So I think if he was here now, he'd probably sat with us telling kids not to do what we did because it's not worth it.
Did you only ever have one fight with Lee Duffy, or was there two?
No, we only had the one fight. I tried to get another one, but he'd been shot in the foot, so he couldn't jump about. And there was a few bits where I've gone for him, and he didn't want to know at the time. But we ended up being, like I say, friends and shook hands and that. And he used to say, since I've teamed up with you, he said, but he was fighting every day of the week, 4 or 5 fights a day. Carl Edwards will tell you this. He said, I've got with you big. I was only with him for I think it was 3.5 months. But I knew Lee Duffy since I was a kid on the door when I was 20, because he was coming through different places, breaking people's jaws. And he had one of them one punches that knock you clean out. He was unbelievable power. But he wasn't big. He was 15 stone, 6'2". All these trolls are going, he was 6'4" and he was 18 stone. And they don't even know the man. And certain people have written books about him. I never even met the bloke. You can't write a book about someone you've never met.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes on the street, size doesn't matter. Sometimes the smaller guy has the advantage because they can get in the inside. But essentially, like the size that you were, I've seen pictures. I mean, absolutely gigantic. I want to actually talk about this next. There's loads of things I've never actually heard you talk about it though. What was your training routine back then? And if you mind me asking this question, right, because you openly talked about being on steroids.
Yeah.
What was your steroid cycle?
I was on 2 shots of test a week, 2 shots of GETTR. I never took tablets, and I'd sometimes take a bit of suspension, which was like for train fast, keep your fitness up. And that I didn't take a lot because I was already big anyway. I'm 20 odd stone now when my hands paralysed and I'm not 100% fit. I'm over 20 stone now, so I'm naturally big. I've got that weight. But my strength was like hideous. Lee Duffy said, I've just had a fight with him there. He went into a nightclub, what's called Rumours. There's got 12 dorms in there. He used to have a drink afterwards. There's a lad called Dave Thomas, really good, big lump of a lad. And he came in, I've just had the nightmare with a lad called Scotch Fry from Redcar. He went, oh, he said, Lee, he's beat everyone since you've been away. He's took over. He's the top dog now. He said he's phenomenal. He can box, he can fight. His fitness is unbelievable. He said he does everything. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't gamble, he doesn't take drugs, doesn't do anything. He's just a complete machine. I used to train 3 times a day, 6 days a week. I'd go to the gym, train one body part, go and have something to eat, come back an hour later, train again. I'd do 5 mile runs twice a week. I'd be on the bag. I'd do 4 threes on a Monday. I'd do row machine 30 minutes on a Tuesday, running machine 30 minutes on Wednesday. Then I'd do weights first, then do them second. So I'd go to the gym and do the weights, come back an hour later, I'd be on the running machine, I'd be on the bag. So I'd be doing 6 exercises a week for fitness, 2 runs in 4 bag, or 2 runs, two row machines. So it'd all be six different fitness ones. And what I started doing, because I was so big, it was hard for me to run. So I started running up the hill, because up the hill you're on your toes. So you're on your toes, your legs like shock absorbers, your calves then. But when you run flat out, you're probably 3 times your body weight. So 24 stone, I was just under. So it'd be like nearly 75 stone running. It would have ruined your legs. So I was doing it uphill. I told Savannah Marshall, who's Peter Fury's boxer, I told her to do that, and she said, that's really good, that. So I just constantly, I lived above a gym. I actually lived in the town above the gym. So as soon as I got up in the morning, I could hear people train, and last thing at night, 10 o'clock, the gym would shut. So I'd go down the stairs, train, eat, go eat, train, sleep, repeat, eat, train, sleep, repeat. I was obsessed just training, and nothing could beat me. No one could beat me in a fight. I just brainwashed myself constantly. I mean, I squatted 800 pounds, which is 365 kilos.
That's a heavy weight.
And then I did 9 plates each end, but I had to get a touch off the lad, which is 380 kilos. And I benched over 600 pounds. I've done that in gyms all over Teesside, in all the prison jails. I did it in every jail. I got the record. But I was just I had that gift. I don't know where it comes from. My mum's really strong, even though she's small. I think it's in your DNA.
And just for people to know this, steroids make up for about 30 to 40% of what it actually is. I've been looking into the steroids. I know people. I've watched that documentary Icarus about the steroids in Russia, but people don't realize, when it comes to bodybuilding, genetics is a massive factor. And I could take steroids, you could take the exact same steroids, we could lift the exact same weight, but your body's going to react differently than mine because we've got different genetics. It's just how it works. So I was looking at the size of you before. You were absolutely gigantic. So you had that, what do you call it? That's that endomorph, isn't it? Where it's endomorph genetics.
Mesomorph. There's endomorph, ectomorph, and mesomorph. The
mesomorph genetics.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think your size was an advantage in the line of work that you done?
100%, because you're going, when you're thinking about, if you're saying to me like leave 15 stone on the street, it's a disadvantage unless you get hold of him, because he's going to dance around you and move. But I was really good on my feet. I was really, really fast dancing. There's a video of me with a lad called Julian Davies, who did the first Street Fighters book. I was with a lad called Richie Horsey, my friend, and he took me on the pads, and he was telling me, because I was so big and they thought I was dead stiff and everything, I won the pads with him in the back garden. It's only about a minute or so, and he went, out of all the people I've taken with the pads, he hit me the hardest ever. He just put me through 16 stone, 10 pound he weighed. He said it felt like he was knocking me through next door's fence. He said the power and the speed off his hands for a big man, I've never known anything like it. He said, out of all the fighters I've interviewed and all the people I've took on pads, he put this in the newspaper, he said, Brian Cockerill's probably the hardest man I've ever met, most doubt the biggest and strongest I've ever come across. And one of my videos, his mate copied it and he became Mr. Wales off it, my routines. So Julian Davies, a lovely lad from Jugger, they call him. He used to be a bare knuckle fighter himself, and people like that saying it. But you've got people like Ernie Buick, who's the best in Sunderland, saying there's never ever going to be another Brian Cockerill. You're getting these legendary fighters saying, not myself, people like Matt Legg, people like Stephen Sayers, people like Norman Buckland, all these top fighters saying Brian in his day could have beat anyone in his day, But I think there's a lot of people probably like that. Not a lot, but quite a few handful of top fighters who are capable of beating anyone in the day, but not in the thousands or anything. We're talking about 12 people.
And just another question for you: how do you feel that you would be in the new BKB promotions today? Do you think you would do well? Do you think?
Well, yeah, I think what my mate said, Bramwell was the top one. He's the family. He's got a son. I think he's got two sons and a daughter. His wife and him, all five of them are the best in the country at their divisions. They all the family, the only ones ever done it, like the Karate Kid family. He said I was doing them moves, like throwing people over the big shoulders and all that stuff before it even came out. So he said, if you'd have been out now, you'd have been a millionaire because you'd have been top of the range in your game because of your flexibility, your movement, your hand speed, your strength.
In BKB or MMA, does he mean?
MMA, yeah, things like that. And I think any sport you went in, you'd have done well because you've got that mindset as well, not to give in.
Yeah, so you said you actually talked about that at the start of the podcast about how you sort of learned a bit of judo, and that is, judo is actually an essential thing to know in MMA because getting the person to the ground, it's either judo or wrestling. Most people go for wrestling, but you had that anyway because you were a massive lump of a guy. So, I mean, you learning actual catch wrestling, like American style wrestling, would have came easy to you. What made you stop taxing?
It just what happened is. We were getting the ecstasy. You were making a fortune off it when we went to rave clubs. You were charging. We had the first rave clubs in the northeast, 24-hour rave clubs. £10 to get in, 2,000 people. You're talking £20,000 on the door. Just ridiculous. Just in one night. Next night it'd be £15, be 30. You're on 50 grand taken on the doors. 2 nights for a club. It's like virtually derelict. And then you had all the people doing the ecstasy in there. You're probably getting them for 6, 7 quid, selling for 15, 20 quid. The money was phenomenal. It was so easy to come by. But I give most of my stuff away for money. I helped so many people. I had nothing in. Paid for people who struggled with a mortgage and kids at school. I'd go and give like an estate all the money for the full uniform for all the kids on the estate and things like that. I used to be dead good to people on the estates, people struggling and things like that. But I was never greedy with money. But when you make it, when you say Tyson, he's at 300 million, I've nowhere near that. But he spent it all. But when you come from a counter six, you've had nothing. You want to give your friends. I'd take 20 people out for a night out and pay for all the drinks, all the drugs, all the coke, all whatever you didn't have to pay in the clubs, taxis and everything, pay for everything. I'd go up for £5 and come back with 200 quid in my pocket, maybe less sometimes. And that's like 20, 30 years ago. But you want your friends to be sharing with you, and you want to be out partying, laughing because I've done nothing. So first time I ever had a drug, I had a line of coke with Duffy. I was 26 and a half. That was the very first one I ever had, and that was the start of it. And then I went on the ecstasy, obviously, with him. And we used to go out and take the ecstasy, but we had good times and that with them. But the good thing about the ecstasy, everyone was like, I know you shot me brother, I know you battered me dad and killed the budgie, but I love you, because everyone's off their heads on ecstasy because it was a love dub. Everyone's happy, and like after support Middlesbrough on the Saturday, and the Newcastle, fuck off you Charlie bastard, you fuck you Middlesbrough, and then on the night time they'd be at the rave, they'd all be cuddling each other, laughing. It was
yeah.
I'd have the clubs, and I'd have one lad who used to come and he'd have a 9mm. I'd go, for fuck's sake, Stevie, put the 9mm, and then he'd have a 36 special on his leg. Then he'd have another cut on there. Then he'd have a big boy knife. Then he'd be full of guns, and I had this cupboard here that was full of guns. I used to take off all the gangsters who come. They come from all around the northeast, from everywhere, to come to Stockton and Middlesbrough and Teesside, because there was nowhere else in the northeast who had rave clubs until later on. Sunderland started doing, copied off us. But we had the that's another thing when they tried to beat me, and all they tried to get into the rave scene. What I had, all they tried to pinch the door off, and they got it for a few weeks. But I got myself back on my feet, come back out, and I bashed the boxer and took the club back off them. That was another massive thing that they nicked me for. But one of the reasons I stopped, this was on the McIntyre documentary, I went to tax a lad, and he was from Africa. Who's he from? I can't remember which part of Africa he was from. Anyway, he was come from Africa, and he was bringing cocaine in, and he was selling it. He was a college student. Anyway, he's come in, so we've allegedly took this gear off him, put a 9mm to his head, and that's supposed to have drove the Cosworths. 2 Cosworths were involved in this robbery, so they nicked us. So we've got you this time, we've got you. He only went to the police. He was that frightened to go back to these gang when he got off. He went to the police and had a big tax off a man called Brian Cockerill and another lad's name. He went to the fucking police. I was the first person, the solicitor said, I've looked through all the books of you, first person ever to be nicked. All the cops come, and in them days they didn't have an helicopter in this area. They were too expensive. They used to have an airplane, used to go to reconnaissance airplane, would do like Hartlepool, Newcastle, Middlesbrough, and come round, take pictures of houses, but always going over mine. And the helicopter come later on. So this was the late 80s, early 90s. So I could hear that. So I come looked out the window and I had a Cosworth on the front, and they had the New Zealand trooper, and he went, open the door, and it was an Irish accent. So I knew they were ex all military, because there's Irish ones, there's Birmingham accent, so you know straight away. So they brought the elite police in to get me. When I was doing the documentary, McIntyre, this actually, I remember they had rifles out the window pointing at you from my house, and there was all people in the street, all got called off in Middlesbrough, by Hemlington. So I got Nick Hobby, I'm sorry, and I got nicked. I was the first person ever to go in front of a judge. The judge said, so how can I take him to court? Because they put me in a line up and the black lad come in, and I allegedly knew these two Irish lads, naughty lads from London, who knew where the family were, and they went and sat with them and when he come to pick me in the lineup, he never picked me up, picked me out. So I got out. The other lad got remanded. And the judge, when it went to court, the judge said, how can we go to court with him when he's bringing drugs through from Africa, Nigeria, he's from Nigeria into England, and these have took him off the most of the West. What jury in the world's going to, he's tinted now. He said he's selling the drugs, they've took them on, so there's no jury in the world's going to find him guilty, so they kick the case out.
I was going to say, you could even just turn around and say, I was trying to get it off him because I don't like drugs on the street. You know, there's plenty of ways that you could get off with that. Like if he's gonna be stupid enough to go to the police, you can turn around and say, well, actually, you know what, I wasn't taking the drugs for myself. I was taking them to bin them. I didn't want them on the street, and he ran away. And I was going to ring you to give you these drugs, you know.
It would be close class as armed robbery because there was handguns involved, you see.
Right. I get you.
That's never to be done for an armed robbery for taking drugs off a drug dealer. Went to the police and told them, I brought a kilo of cocaine into town, he took it off me with a handgun.
You're a Christian now, and it's important that people, you know, there's a lot of people out there, I feel like, don't move into Christianity or don't move into religion or spiritual things because they think it's sure that's just for like pansies or something, but it's not. Religion, you know, a guy like yourself who's been through the wars of it, you know, to have that forgiveness in you now is brilliant. So
I'll just tell you a quick story. This is one reason I believe in religion. We went to Redcar, supposed to have a fight with this lad, very good friend of mine, or people twisting people. Gone there with a couple of the lads from Hartlepool. There was 11 of us went in a 12-seater bus, and we've had a car. Went in a 911 Porsche we had. So I've got there, and we've got up to 30 of them. There's 11 of us, but these are all prop fighters, these are cage fighters, and so like 1 against 30 would probably beat them anyway. So I've come forward anyway. I've grabbed the bat because they've got bats. I've got basically I've ran. I've smashed one of the car. One tried to move, so I hit the car windscreen. Smashed it anyway. I've turned around. There's 6 of them with guns pointing at me. But with them Dillingers, you know, them handheld ones where you make with you could shoot there and the bullet go over there. They're about 20 feet away from me. And I went, fucking come on. And they're shooting at us. I thought, they're just blanks. They easily think I'm an idiot. They didn't even look like guns. I've run at them and I've looked behind me. Then I looked at the van. All the windows have gone through. They've shot the band windows out. Fucking hell, the real bullets. We've run. And I said, I could have beat Linford Tristan Usain Bolt that night. I was to run that fast. But they're the real bullets. Anyway, every one of the bullets missed me. I was 24 stone. The lad behind me was 12 stone and he got shot. So that's when I think this is divine intervention. There's too many times it's happened. So I thought,
so we've moved on now. We're talking about religion, and I'm really interested to know in Brian's spiritual awakening, because that's what it is. It's spirituality. It's religious, and you know, to come from the place that you did, to have the experiences that you did, and as you say, to be in that moment. There's somebody shooting at you. You think that these are blanks. You look behind you, you see that there's bullet holes. There's a guy 12 stone beside you. He's nowhere near the mass of you. These bullets miss you. So at that moment, or when you reflect, you think this is divine intervention. From that moment, then, do you become religious, or is it a slow process?
It's a very slow progress. Yes, it's just like it's a coincidence, and you keep fighting it. It's like religion. Some days you believe in it, and other days you don't. And that's it. Tony, I'm out being a Christian because I don't. No, that's just your fight. It's like the hardest thing about being a Christian is not putting your hands up to fight or walking away from people like idiots who trolling you and we're going to do this, want to fight. And you know in your head you can destroy them, but the Lord's saying, yeah, but if you do that, you're going to You break what you've done all the hard work. You go and hurt someone now because somebody's not a Christian, and you're going to do everything. Because when I was at the operation, I was laid there. I think I'm never going to walk again, God. I'm like this, and he went to me, "You are going to walk. You're going to walk. You're going to speak to millions of people. You're going to help loads of people with your story, what you've got. You can help millions of people." And I said to God in my head, I went, "I can't even walk, Lord." I said, "I'm not going to be able to do it. How can I do it?" And he said, "You'll get off that bed." He said, "Now get off that bed and walk." And I got off the bed and I walked. It took me about an hour to get up. I walked about 4 steps. And what are you doing? You just had major surgery. I had 5 vertebrae. And when I went in, it was 5 of my vertebrae were crushed into my cord. And your cords in here, like this spinal cord. 5 of them vertebrae had to cut the backs of them off to release the cord so it could be released, so it could have the pressure off it. It was crushed down to 0.5 mil from 5 mil. He said, within the next 2 or 3, 4 weeks, you would have been paralysed from the neck down, like Superman. I went, unbelievable. So I said, this is another divine one. So he said, how? He said, we all looked at it. He said, I got the MRI done. And about an hour later, you never get this. Come back straight away at the hospital, please. I thought, serious, this. So goes back. I said, what's the prognosis? Me having a laugh. And he went, it's not funny. He said, no, you should have had an operation years ago. He said, how are you walking around with this injury? It's a miracle. He said, because there's no way you can do it. It's physically impossible, but you're doing it and you're training. So he said, your spinal cord's crushed down to 0.5 mil from 5 mil. He said, what was the prognosis? He said, but all of us looked at it and we all looked at each other and went, Jesus, that's the words he come out with. Then I knew it was serious. So I had to have it done. So I got it done. Then they had to put 2 titanium rods each side of my neck as well. So I've had that done. I've had all the bones, all spinal stenosis in between, where the calcified bone, that's all been drilled out. And 10 screws have been put and bolted to my neck. And then 3 months later, I had to have another one on the L4 and L5. My analogy would be, it's like a horse's tail hanging down. All the little nerves have been crushed in the 4 and 5 vertebrae. So I kept falling over and lose my balance, and that's what it was. So they said, it's 50-50 if you'll ever walk again. He said, but you'll never be able to train again. But I am training. Within a couple of months of doing it, I was elastic training bands, training with them, and I just won't give in in my head. I just will not give in. But that's the Lord, I think, as Jesus.
Yeah, you attribute that to a higher power, and you're Christian. You believe in Jesus, and I mean there is something to it. You know, I can't sit here and be a denier of religion. I come up from a very strong Catholic background. I can't tell you what is and what isn't, but all I can say is there's something, and you have to have faith in something. And definitely the experience that you had like that, was your discs fusing? Were they starting to fuse together?
What had happened is, my discs were all crumbled over, and then in between the discs, it said there's calcified bone in there, and there. So it was all thick bone. So it was pushing them further and further down. So it was crushing the spinal cord, which is here. So that was getting tighter and tighter. It was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So that would have just severed the spinal cord and it would have been gone, because the calcified bone was getting more and more inside there. Probably maybe to do with steroids as well. Maybe you don't know. But saying that, my mum's got the same type of injuries, and my brother's got the same, and my sister's got the same. So we've all got that to do with
it's a genetic. It's a genetic thing. It's a very genetic thing, yeah. And obviously,
people say it's this, that, and the other. Well, it's just crazy, aren't it, people?
No, listen. It could be genetics. It could be. You were very heavily into your training, so you know that probably has its yings and yangs where it helped your fitness. Obviously, if you had that genetic trait, it's not going to help the bones, because the bones take the brunt end of everything, you know. And people later on in their life have to get these operations. You're seeing boxers, you're seeing jiu-jitsu guys, wrestlers, that their backs are just fusing together because that's the lifestyle that they're living, because of the weight.
Mike Tyson's the prime example, and Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah. I was just watching Ronnie before this. He's got a new reaction channel. He's brilliant. I love Ronnie Coleman. He'd be my favorite one now.
Yep, baby.
Yeah, brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant.
I would say he believes in the laws, and he won't give in. He just keeps going. He's had 13 operations, and he just keeps going. You've got to take your hat off to people like that. It's just so you could just say, well, I was the best bodybuilder of all time. He still wants to do it. And same with me, I'm not going to give in. I'm training really good now. The last 8 weeks, I put 2.5 stone on of quality muscle. I've lost a lot of body fat, so I'm doing like a lot of. I did a lot of elastic band training for people out there. We've got thousands of people into training elastic bands. We've got thousands of people into helping people off the streets. We've helped people get food at Christmas. We go around helping people with the kids and stuff. and we go to schools, talking in schools and telling kids, don't do what I did in the past. Look at the holes in me. Look at the state of me. I said, you put your life at risk. Once you start selling drugs and going out and taking, then you get addicted to them. When you get addicted, then you start locking yourself in the house, then you start getting paranoid. Every little noise is like exponentially bigger. And what's that? What's that noise? Police out there. You just the paranoia in your head is the worst thing. You can't control it. Once you get it once, you get it every time. So I wouldn't advise anyone to start taking drugs in any way, shape, or form unless it's off a doctor. I wouldn't advise anyone to take steroids whatsoever unless you go and see a doctor and he's prescribes you, who's an expert. Don't just, a lot of these steroids are getting made in bathtubs, but they have to be made in laboratory conditions because the germs are in the air now as we walk up. You get a dirty needle in you end up, my friend got one that killed him. He got an abscess in his shoulder that killed him. So steroids, if you're going to get them, make sure you get them from the doctors. Don't get them on these online. They've got
without mentioning any names, we're seeing a lot of boys getting abscesses left, right, and centre all over YouTube. But we'll not mention their names because that's do you know what I mean? That's it's crazy. But you're 100% right. But because your sort of your religiousness and your faith in God, you've been attacked. It told me about it. We're not going to mention any names, but you've been attacked. Sort of, you could call it by, in your opinion, like a demonic force. You feel like it's a very unjust. It's an injustice against you the way you've been attacked. There's trolls that attack you all the time. Yeah. You say, look, I'm just here speaking the truth, and you're here every day. Do you want to just explain to the people, without mentioning names now, the level of trolling that you have to go through online?
Yeah, well, I've had people phone me live, threaten to cut me throat in front of me fans. Hundreds of people have seen it live. I've had people threaten to shoot me. I've had people, I'll say, well, come to my house. I'll meet you now. Instead of come to my house, I'll meet you around the corner. You don't have to come to my house. I'll come meet you. Instead of come to my house and where there's a woman and the dogs, I'll meet you. But when you advertise something, you start shouting your mouth. They never do it. It's just trolls. So I'll meet fire with fire if they come to my door. Then that's what I'm with. If anybody, even the Lord, if somebody comes to your house to hurt you and your family, the Lord wouldn't stop you protecting yourself and your family. You obviously have to do that. But as me for going and beating people up or robbing people and stuff like that, that's all gone years ago. But people saying they're going to rape my wife, just because we went to court against these people with a book, and we won the court case, and they're still denying it. The narcissistic personality behaviour, just because the person who got the book with me, when he got me, I've only got Brian Cockerill, the best subject ever. He's the best fighter, one of the best fighters that ever been. He's the greatest at this, the best at that, the best at this. But now I'm big bright lies, big bright bullshit, big bright bullshit, big bright. But if they were bullshit, why would you write a book about me and then put me on documentaries and all the other stuff? Because it was beneficial then to him and his wife. It was beneficial because it was making money for them. But now, because I've exposed them and told the truth, they don't like it. So they're making stupid videos like Spacker Brian, you retard, because I'm in a wheelchair, act Little Britain, they take the piss. But the more they do it, they just make me stronger every day because it's sticks and stones will break my bones, but things will never hurt me. But when they're threatening to rape my wife when I'm in hospital, trying to recover from operation, I've had to sign myself out to come home to protect my family. I would have been probably better now because I'd have been in there for physios because we're going to put me in the hydro pools and all sorts of stuff. But I decided to so there was, you can't go home, you've only just had an operation, you've only had 23 weeks. He said, you need a lot more time, you need another 6 to 8 weeks before you're fully fit. And I had to argue with the doctors to get out of the hospital. They said, you're crazy, you're not going to get better 100%. So I said, yeah, but I'd rather be out there fighting for my wife at the front of the door than anything happened to her because I'd have better live myself. So yeah, Emma gets the brunt of it as well. All we've done is stand up for ourselves, and we've actually won the court case. The judges award the book back. The judges award is that they have to give us now comply how many books have been sold, and we have to add it together, give it back to the judge, and the judge is going to win us the award of the money what we're owed. And that's all we've done. I mean, if you go to work to British Steel every day and somebody hasn't paid you for 18 months, you've got to say, I want invoices, I want a contract. And that's all we ask for, just normal plain things. When I've done books with John Blake Publishing, I'll phone John. So John, can you send the invoice? I get them sent in 5 minutes. I'll send them on the computer straight to your phone. John Blake Publishing, great people. And I've worked with Stephen Rafe, another great guy. Did Stephen the other month. Stephen, could you give us a few invoices? 3 or 4 minutes, he had all the invoices. And we got to court. The judge has said to him, what way of proof have you given Mr. Cockerill in the way of how many royalties have been sold, which means how many books have been sold, and documentaries and Kindles and audio books. There's all sorts. It's not just one book. There's the documentary and all this. So he's got money for all these items, thousands and thousands of pounds. Sending us 20 quid a month and 12 quid and 6 quid and £5.80 and £3.80. And I know for a fact when I did the Taxman book, which was 2004 running, there was no internet then, and it's still got people from Germany, Poland, America came to buy the book. 1,500 people turned up, and I sold 650 books that day in Bookland. And the only reason I sold 650 because we run out of books. So we got another 600 next week, and we sold another 600 books, or 1,250 books in 2 weeks. They're trying to say I've only sold 200 books in 3 years. It doesn't make sense. You'd sell a lot more now with the internet and my name being bigger, because that was before the documentary of the McIntyre. That's been seen by nearly something like 4.5 million people. So the name is big. I'm not being big-headed. I'm just saying I've got a big name and I've got a big following. We've got over nearly 31,000 subscribers, like 10,000 on Facebook. So we get a mega. We had not last month, month before, we had 825,000 people in a month in 28 days. We've had 6.6 million people in 2 years. And in that 2 years, I've been injured. I've been ill. I was paralysed for 8 months. My both legs were completely paralysed, Ron, and my hands. Could only move my neck. I couldn't do nothing else. And I was paralysed, and I was getting threats to want to fight me while I was paralysed in a wheelchair. Really big, brave men, these, aren't they?
Yeah, it seems like they've picked their moment to come at you. As you say, look, whenever you told me this story behind the scenes, something really did stand out. Your book sales prior and your sort of notoriety and your how popular you are in the the public eye online, you're going to sell a good few books. That goes without saying. So the fact that you've just asked for invoices and you weren't receiving that, to me, that's a red flag. You're being stroked. You're being set up. You're being stroked, right? And you've done the right thing. You have to stand up for yourself. You just can't let people walk over the top of you. I think, and just knowing your side, by the way, I don't know. Listen, I haven't spoke to anybody else. I've just spoke to you. But just from what you've told me, it seems to me that they've picked their moment. And maybe there's a bit of, I'm getting this from Brian Cockerill, the taxman. I can do this to the taxman. But what they're not realizing is that this is, this isn't 15 years ago. 15 years ago, you take their head off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's not nice because you're in religion.
They wouldn't have dared do it 5 years ago, and I'm 15. So it's only
5 years ago.
3 years since I found Christianity properly. I got baptized in the sea near Emma, where we first met. And because I first met Emma over 30 years ago, and we got back together. I was on the internet one night, and so coincidence, me, Emma, I went, because somebody had told me she died. I hadn't seen her for years because she went to Liverpool. She was with somebody in Liverpool for 20 years. And I've never even, I started just being cruel. I said, isn't Emma, if you're married, Emma, right, where did I first meet? And she told me who met me was Frankie Atherton. I can't believe it. Anyway, we got to meet each other. But I got the not Omicron, so I got part, what do you call that? The thing where the kids throw up, Nova virus, I think it's called.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks before I could meet her, and she kept thinking I was blagging her, but I was poorly. So we went to get my haircut. We got my haircut all spruced up. My brother only locked my car keys in the car. Yeah, screaming at him. So we had to get a taxi. It was like they're trying to keep us apart. Anyway, I seen her. As soon as I seen her, we moved in together, and we've been together ever since. But people were phoning up, and this was the same book author. Was phoning up, getting people to phone up and go, oh, is Emma there? I've been seeing her for the last 3 months, before you got with her, and I'm trying to split us up. And then I'd phone him and say, this lad's phoned up tonight, saying, Emma's been messed about and all this. He said, he's been with her. He's going, I'll find out for this, mate. I'll get to the bottom of this. Oh, it was him and his wife doing it, getting people to phone up. Terrible.
So they're attacking your relationship. They're attacking your life. They're attacking you online. It's just attacks left, right, and center, all because you just you want transparency with the book. I mean, it could have been a hell of a lot worse, Brian. It looks like you've dodged the bullet too, to a certain degree. Could you imagine if you stayed in that situation for a while longer? It could have been a lot worse, but at the same time, you have to stick to your guns. You have to, you have to just tell the truth, be right, be just, be, just be who you are, and essentially, as you say, trust in God and just have faith in the truth. And it is the end of the podcast. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Brian?
No, I'm thankful to meet people like you because God, I know God puts good people together, and you are a really good lad. Love you to bits and your family and everything. Stephen, official Topic Truth, another great kid. We've got together in a short space of time, and we've got a bond there. I can feel it. And I don't tell lies. You don't tell lies. Stephen doesn't tell lies. Emma doesn't tell lies. We've got like a good support of people now coming together. So they can call you all day long. And Lee Duffy said this to me. He said, when the bad people are calling you bad, it doesn't matter. But when the good people are calling you bad, you've got a problem. And I also said, somebody said, you can fool some of the people most of the time. You can fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all of the time. And that's a true saying. But look at Jesus. If you try to love everyone, if you're a people like, I like to help people and be nice to people. But when you're like these other demonic people, they're only interested in themselves. It's all about them. The narrative is all about them. They're not interested in what you can do for you, to what you can do for them. They're not bothered. As soon as you're finished, they'll just move you along, get somebody else, and that's what they do. This company, and they've been doing it for 10 years now, and they've done the same thing. They're, like Martin Joseph said, he's 76-year-old, ripped him off as well, and he's written a book for his grandson, and they paid that man £70 in 3 years, who trained world champions. He trained Lee Duffy, he trained Peter O, he had Anthony O, world champion amateur boxer, and then he had Cornelius Carter, who was the world champion. Fought Steve Collins, only just say beat 1 point, who's from that neck of the woods. And these people are brilliant people. Have done books for them. He's ripped them all off. But I think in the end, people start waking up now and can see what's going on.
Well, Brian, look, thank you for the kind words. It's terrible what you're going through. It's good that we can bring awareness to this here, and hopefully there's some resolution on both sides. Hopefully, people could just go their separate ways on both sides and just let there be peace. I appreciate you coming on, telling your story. Hopefully we can do a part 2 sometime. It would be fantastic to get you on. That is the baseline of who you were. There's the McIntyre documentary. I'll leave the link for that in the description of the video. I'll leave the link for Brian's channel. He doesn't need it. He's flying. He's got coming up to 35,000 subs, but I'll put that in there anyway if people want to go over and subscribe to his channel. Fantastic content. It is the end of the podcast. Brian, you've been an absolute star, mate. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and peace.
Thanks, everyone. God bless.